welcome to the next episode of Under the Brim. I am Dr. Shanna Moody, and we are here to talk about the mindset and motivation of the athletes under the brim, bringing you another fabulous and interesting episode of Sul Ross athletes here competing in collegiate sports. Again, this season we are pairing up a rodeo athlete with a traditional sports athlete and kind of talking to them about what's similar about your sports, what's different about your sports, and what's going on in your minds while you're competing and while you're training and preparing, and how do you celebrate the victories and how do you overcome the triumphs and tragedies of your sport. And so I say traditional sport, but today we have something a little bit different. I don't know that this sport we would necessarily call a traditional sport. So I'm going to let the athletes introduce themselves today, but we have a gentleman from our Sul Ross Rodeo team, and then we have another athlete that I'm going to let him go first and introduce himself.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Octavius Delgado, and I play ultimate Frisbee. But that's all I got for now. Okay, boss man.
Yeah, I'm Brandon Lansford. I'm on the rodeo team. I ride saddle bronc, team rope, and calf rope.
Okay. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. I wasn't sure about your rodeo history, if you competed in other sports besides saddle bronc.
Yeah, I originally, through junior high, I competed in every event I possibly could. I shoot dogged, team rope, calf rope, breakaway, everything.
Okay, wow.
Rode bulls for a good while, and now it's pretty much just saddle bronc. But.
Okay. So how, through all of that, so you've tried every rodeo event, it sounds like.
Yeah, just about everything I could get into.
Okay. Were there any that right away you instantly didn't like?
Not really. I like a challenge. So if it appealed any way of a challenge, I've enjoyed it more, really. Maybe the shoot dogging. I struggled with it the most because, at the time I was about 85 pounds. So
didn't quite have the lead in the britches that you needed at that point.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Again, just to remind the listeners that I call myself a fitletete because I tried to play sports, but I was not a great athlete, right? And then I have never been a rodeo athlete at all, but I raised a rodeo athlete, so I had to kind of learn along with him. And so watching him go through all the different rodeo events kind of reminded me of what you said. And right away, instantly, we started putting him on sheep because as a little kid, that's one of the first things that you can do, mutton busting, right? Yeah. And I have the greatest picture of him getting bucked off a sheep, and the picture is him he's probably 2 inches, his face is 2 inches deep in the dirt, but the rest of his body isn't touching the ground yet. So his arms are stretched out like Superman position. His feet are probably 2 feet in the air above the ground, but his face is already 2 inches in the dirt. And from that point forward, he was pretty much like, I hate this sport and I never want to do this again, right? And then the second thing that you can do is lead line, where your kid is on the horse and the parent is running on the ground, pulling the horse with a lead line. And again, I didn't compete in rodeo, so I'm trying to learn how to wear boots and run in rodeo arena dirt, which I don't know how many of you have ever tried to sprint in rodeo arena dirt, but great workout. Yeah. Not the easiest thing to do, right?
It's not feasible at all. It's not something you want to do.
So I've always wondered about that. So as a kid trying to play sports, I was really insecure because, again, I wasn't a great athlete. And so I always wonder about you guys as rodeo athletes. What's it like when you get bucked off a horse, again, thinking about saddle bronc, and you're way out in the middle of the arena and nothing else can happen in the rodeo until you get out of the arena? So what is that feeling like of knowing that everybody's watching you run or walk out of the arena, and maybe even especially if you just had a bad ride? What is that, 8 or 10 seconds, or does it feel like a minute? What does it feel like?
It can be a very long time, really.
Yeah.
It feels like it takes forever, and most of the time you forget how to walk. You have everybody watching you and you're like,
Do you feel like that? Do you feel like all eyes are on you and that everybody is just watching you?
At times, yeah. Especially when things go wrong. But
yeah, I would imagine. Do you feel like time is moving slower than maybe it really is?
Yeah, I've had that feeling a few times.
Okay.
Not regularly, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it was like as being a lead line parent, right? So I, again, didn't grow up rodeo. So here I am trying to act like I know what I'm doing and dress the part and look the part. And I'm so insecure doing it that I know my son knows what he's doing and he has no qualms about sitting on the horse, right? And I'm just worried that I'm going to look like a fool, or I'm going to be the mom who trips and falls and have the horse take off running or something, right? So, yeah. So before I come back to Octavius, I want to come back to you, Brandon. So just if there's anybody listening, because I consider this kind of like a crossover podcast, because hopefully we're introducing maybe some traditional sports people to the rodeo world and vice versa. So maybe can you give us a quick summary of what saddle bronc is?
Yeah, so saddle bronc is a classic event. It's originated back on the ranch when they were trying to break the horses. You have the younger guys on the property have to get on the horse. It's never been rode before. And it was real common that the horse would probably end up bucking and throwing a fit.
Okay.
And it's just evolved since then to now you're required to grab a mark out. Like you start out in the chute. You have a saddle that's designated to bronc riding. You have to grab your mark out in that first jump, which is your feet up over the point of the shoulders. And then every jump in the picture perfect ride, you're back in that position when their front feet are on the ground.
Okay.
While you're still having to lift on your rein and spurring them the whole time through for 8 seconds. So
the only thing keeping you connected to the horse is your rein. I mean, your butt's in the saddle and your feet are in the stirrups, but you're not necessarily really sitting, right?
yeah, there's, especially the way I ride, there's a few points in it to where you're actually sitting down. But most of the time you just have a few inches of the inside of your legs that are making contact.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons that I paired up you two for this podcast was because I feel like both of your sports, I consider it like free flying, right? Like there's just, it's out of control, both of your sports a little bit, right? Like you kind of have to come to that realization and that acceptance for your sport that there's just so much out of your sport that's out of control, right? And also you're kind of the like more like wild events, right? Like I would think from my perspective of how I was kind of thinking through like pairing up the sports of these athletes. So Octavius, coming back to you, telling me a little bit about your sports history growing up.
So sports history started out with football, of course.
Of course, because we're in Texas, right?
You have to play football.
Brandon, did you play football?
I played in junior high for a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was mainly football, basketball, baseball. I really loved baseball, but as I got older, I could not hit the ball. Put me in the outfield, and I can run, I can catch it. Center field was my thing. Couldn't mess with me.
Okay.
As I got a little bit older, football decided not to be my friend anymore. I had a really, really serious injury. That was my sophomore year. I had nerve damage on the right side of my arm. Couldn't move it. And I was like, well, so I became a really big runner in track and fell in love with that. But then I got cleared to play football and decided to roll the dice. Went back to football. And then when I came to Sul Ross, I signed for football. And then I came out here and I was like, yeah, football's not for me. I was like, I'm not trying to go pro. I'm not trying to do anything. I'll just tell my kids I should have went to the NFL. I'll keep it. And,
they'll never know.
Yeah, they'll never know. But after that, I was just a full-time student, and then the COVID year, my sophomore year, my roommate came home, and he was like, hey, man, like, do you want to play Ultimate Frisbee? And I was like, what's that? And he was like...
I was going to ask, did you even know what Ultimate Frisbee was?
I didn't even know what it was, and I was like the thing where... And I thought it was disc golf, like, where you just... And I was like, I'm not playing that. And he was like, no. He's like, dude, it's really, really fun. We should try it out. So I watched a couple of videos, and I was like, all right, let's do it.
The power of YouTube, right? We can learn everything from YouTube.
Yeah, I watched a couple videos and I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. Like that doesn't look hard. I went out there, I was out of shape, I was big body, and it was actually a tryout. I thought we were just going there to have fun and we were kind of just doing our thing. And then the lead guy, Mike, was like, hey, if I call your name, you're on the team. And he was like, Octavius? And I was like, oh, I'm on the team?
Me? What? Who, me?
So yeah, me and my buddy, we went out there thinking like, just, for fun, let's hang out, meet some, new people, and then lo and behold, we're on the Sul Ross Ultimate team.
So do you know what Ultimate Frisbee is?
I actually had to watch some on YouTube before we got in here because you told me we were going to be paired up. And I was like, I might need to look into this a little bit.
So what did you think about when you watched it?
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I'm not that coordinated.
So when you started playing this sport, when you watched the YouTube videos, what did you think of it?
I thought of it as, I was like, oh, like this is perfect. It's like football, soccer, and like all in one. And I was like, I can do this. And it's just a lot of running. I mean, it's a lot of running. It's constant movement unless you catch the disc. That's the only time you get a break. If you have the disc, you cannot move. You're just there to throw it. But as soon as you throw it, you got to be moving again.
Okay, so you said originally you thought it was disc golf.
Right.
So can you tell the listeners what disc golf is?
So disc golf is like there's a basket far away, and you have to be very, very skilled and talented to get it. And
a frisbee. Yeah,
like
it's a frisbee.
Like a frisbee. It's a little bit heavier than an actual, like a regular frisbee, and it's a little bit smaller, and you just throw it, and hopefully you make it. And like I said, I've tried it once, and I was like, yeah, I'll just stick to Ultimate because
So we're really fortunate here at Sul Ross that we have a disc golf course on our campus, and it's pretty common on college campuses, and now even in city parks a lot have it. But there are different discs similar to different clubs in golf that are made for a drive or made for a putt or made for different distance throws. So disc golf is very much like golf, but you're playing it with a disc or a Frisbee and aiming at a basket instead of a hole. Okay, so that's kind of what you thought it was. Yeah. And that, again, would involve a lot of cardio of walking, but it's not contact, competitive running intensity, right? So now can you explain to us what ultimate Frisbee is?
So ultimate Frisbee, it's a gentleman's game. So it's I
haven't heard that before. Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of people, I come from a football mindset, and that's when I was like, we're going to be making a lot of contact, and they're like, no.
It's aggressive. We're going to be,
And they're like, no, there's no refs. There's
no refs?
There's no refs. We are the refs.
Okay, well, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so whenever you make it to conference and stuff like that, there may be refs, but the last 2 times we've made it to conference, there's never been refs. It's mainly whenever you make it to regionals and all the bigger games is when there are refs, and it's just wait, if there's no refs, then who's gonna call the rules? And it's us. So, and it's just you have to agree. So for example, if I'm holding the disc and I, take a step or two and they call travel, I have to respect his call because he's the one that saw it. And I'll be like, okay, and it just resets. Or if I throw the disc and he just so happens to hit my hand or my wrist, I can call foul, and he can argue with me for a little bit, but then it's just okay, gentleman's agreement, you get the disc back.
Okay, so now when I was younger, I used to go play pickup basketball with these older guys, the old men in town that had the key to the basketball gym.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how that works, right? I don't know how these old men get the key to the school basketball gym, but they do. And that's how we played, right? But they never really played by the rules, right? They'd say, call a foul, and it was not a foul. Or they would say, oh, I didn't touch you. And they would have just knocked you on your butt, right?
Yeah.
So is it like that in Ultimate a lot?
Yeah, for the most
that's
part.
Instantly what I relate to when you started telling me that story.
So like I said, for every tournament that we go to, we try to keep it nice and simple. The only time it gets hectic is whenever the other team starts chirping at us, If they're up by a couple of points, we're like, look, let's calm it down. We're gonna win. And you could be up by 7, and we'll come back and beat you. It doesn't matter. We're that good.
So is there a lot of trash talk then because there's not refs?
Yeah. A lot of trash talk. And us here at Sul Ross, we don't even bother with it. We just kind of ignore it. We continue to play our game. And if it continues on and we're like, hey, we're winning, I don't know why you're even talking. And we'll start talking towards the end of the game to look, you need to be down here.
So y'all have the confidence. And so tell the listeners, and maybe even Brandon, because I bet a lot of people don't know this. Tell them how good your team really is.
So last year we had a total of 13, 14 players. We travel on our own and stuff like that. And we go
because you're similar to rodeo that you're not an NCAA sport. So you are a club similar to rodeo. So you're self-supported. So you don't officially have a school coach.
Nope.
You don't have funding from the school. You're self-funded.
Yes and no. Yeah, self-funded.
You can do fundraisers and stuff like that.
Raise money.
And you don't have a school bus that you travel on.
Nope,
you
we
travel
take
on
our cars. So
you're the first athlete that's been able to relate to rodeo and that.
Yeah, y'all sound a lot like us now.
And it's a pain, because we'll have tournaments in Oklahoma, and Sul Ross is far away from anything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
So we'll have tournaments in Houston, and we'll go to San Antonio, we'll go to Austin.
Y'all been to Oklahoma and stuff too, yeah.
And Oklahoma's, already a 9.5-hour drive. So we're like, all right, we're taking turns. Every hour we're switching, at the next gas station, stuff like that.
So far in that regard, you're the first athlete that I've interviewed that's been comparable to rodeo in that regard.
Yeah,
so
the only thing really is we have a coach that is hired by the school. So
and y'all have a coach, but he's a faculty member, right? Do y'all?
No.
Oh, I thought y'all had a coach.
No coach. So
did y'all you have a sponsor? Mm-mm. You have to have a sponsor. Every club has to have a sponsor.
I'm trying to think.
You have to have a faculty member.
Downstairs in the glass room.
I thought was it not Velasco? No.
I can't think of his name. Wears glasses.
It'll come to you in a minute.
Across from the game room. I think his name's Paul.
Okay.
Is it Paul? I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Totally distracted you though. Okay, so go back to how good you are.
So, like I said before, we average about 13, 14 players a year. we'll go against like D1 schools and beat them. 2 tournaments ago, we went against Texas Tech, UT, Baylor, smoked them. And it's not like, oh, well, you just beat a name. No, we're beating, a 25-player roster. We only have 13, 14 players, and there can only be 7 players at a time. So we're constantly...
And they probably had a lot more to pick from to get that 25.
Yes. So we're always tired. We call it the suicidal 7, and it's just keep
That's
moving.
how many people are on the field at a time?
At a time for both teams, and it's just like constantly moving. Like, even if you're tired, it's like, you got to stay in the game. Like, and it gets hectic. Like
so y'all been ranked nationally, right?
Mm-hmm. Last year we were ranked number 3
in the nation.
In the nation.
Wow.
And we were kind of happy about that. 14 guys, ranked number 3 in the entire nation. We were
at a D3 school.
Yeah.
And that's not a D3 ranking. Mm-hmm. That is like
the
all
entire
level. Because again, this is
level.
a club, not a NCAA sport.
So we were pretty excited, and we should have went to nationals. We fell short, and that's why we got number 3. We lost by a point. It was very, very annoying.
Oh, so it was that close?
Yeah, it was very close. And in the spring is whenever we plan on going back. We'll see what happens, though. We're pretty excited to get revenge.
It's all about the comeback, really.
Yeah, always about the comeback. So, I mean, like I said, we are very hardcore. We do not take like any excuse. We're like, no, we're here to play. And, we'll have games. 3 games back to back to back, and it's not like it's not slow. It's fast movement, constantly moving, just running the entire time. Like
how long do you call it, match or a game, or what do you call it?
We would call it match, a game.
Okay. How long?
So on the average, we go up to 13 points, and it's 1 point at a time. So like if we throw the Frisbee in the end zone, that's 1 point.
So it's not a time limit, it's a score.
Yeah, it's a score and a time limit game. So I believe it's about 1 hour and 15 minutes every single game, and then we only get 20 to 30 minutes to get ready for the next game. So it's like, hey, drink your Gatorade, drink your water, whatever. Let's start stretching. We got 15 minutes now to go play this other team.
Okay.
Jeez.
And so when is your actual season?
Actual season is this upcoming spring. Like right now, we're just kind of going into tournaments. Like, hey,
Off
we're
season.
here.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of just getting prepared. And in the spring is whenever we get really, really serious, starting to see like our rivals and stuff like that. And like our biggest rivals is Rice University and Texas State. We do not like Texas State. We do not.
Don't
like
be
them.
talking about the Bobcats. That's my
I'm sorry. It's just
alma mater, please.
can't do it.
Go Cats.
But Texas State is like we always butt heads. Like before the game, after the game, during the game, they like Rice, they're like, we're able to like connect like, hey, let's talk, we'll play the game. Not that big of a deal, but with Texas State, it's a holy ball game. It's like we're gonna take y'all down.
So I went back to Texas State for a conference, and they have, what's the game? It's like the Harry Potter game that they've actually turned into like a game. Quidditch. Yes, Quidditch. Have you ever seen Quidditch in real life?
No.
So Texas State is a huge Quidditch school, and I had never seen it before I went back. And I was like, what are they playing? They're like kids running around with these sticks between their legs. Like, how when you're a little kid, you play like you're riding a horse, but it's the broom?
Yeah.
There are kids doing that, but then there's like hula hoop things. And have you played it before? Yeah. Have you ever seen it before?
No, I hadn't.
Okay.
I've seen it on the movie, but that's it.
But there's like a real life Quidditch league.
Is it like a Pokemon Go type of thing? Like,
No, I mean it's like Ultimate Frisbee. Like it's like a club, and you go to different schools and compete. It's Quidditch. You have to look it up.
It's like a real thing, though.
It's like a real thing. And
So
you don't
they
dress
just
up in costume. It's not like
Oh.
that stuff. I mean, it's a game.
I was definitely
like Ultimate.
picturing these guys dressed up, running around with brooms.
I mean-
like,
Did you ever do that when you were a kid though? Like pretend like a broom was a horse?
I think
I still do it.
I think everybody does that.
still
Or
still do
gets
it.
the broom and pretends like it's like a microphone, singing in the microphone. That's
Or a
what I do.
guitar?
Yeah, there you
like
go.
the scene in Risky Business. But yeah, you still do it.
I still do it. If I get in the groove of cleaning.
I don't remember my son doing that, but literally like everything in our house was a rope. So like if he was punished, his punishment was taking his ropes away. Yeah. And if we took his ropes away, literally what he would do is go in his closet. If we were like, okay, you're punished, go to your room. He would take his shoelaces out of his shoes and he would make a lasso and he would start roping things in his room.
Oh yeah, shoestring and an old cowboy toy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if we weren't paying attention, he would make corrals in the kitchen and he would tie rope or string to the chairs and the table and he would make like corrals. But if you weren't paying attention, if you got up in the middle of the night, you were going to eat the floor because you wouldn't know where he had tied things and you were going to trip and fall. It was crazy. So did you always want to be a cowboy? Did you always know that's what you wanted to do?
Oh yeah, I grew up right in the middle of it. Back home, my dad has been a farrier my whole life, so I was always around horses. He was always shoeing horses. Everyone around us roped or they worked cattle or they cowboyed in some sort of way, and that's just what I've always wanted to do.
Did you grow up around any kind of horses or cows or?
Yeah, and you know, even now, my mom and dad, we recently got property and we got 5 cattle now. So okay. I'll go out there.
Tax write-off.
And I'll go out there, and my dad was like, you know, we want them to like get to know us because like if we walk up to the fence, they'll like run off, and I was like, I'll get in there with them. He's like, no, you won't. And I was like, $20, and I'll go in there and I'll run with them. It's fun. I mean,
there's something so relaxing about being around animals, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just so cool until they make you mad. And then, you know, like I'm sure, do you have any, you said you stay on a ranch when you're not here. So
yeah, I've definitely got a couple that'll trip a few wires.
Yeah. So funny. Okay. So then did you grow up knowing you wanted to be an athlete? Did you grow up in sports?
Oh yeah. I didn't
Always?
start with sports until I was like 8 years old. And I remember just like watching on TV and I was like, Mom, like I want to be doing that. She was like, no, you're too young. And I mean, I'm big body now, but as a kid, I just had a big old head. So, you know, my mom feared for me and she was just like, no, you're not playing. And then at 8 years old, and I was like, Mom, like, come on, let me play football. Like, I want to play football. And she was like, okay. And I remember she was like, if you're past 80 pounds, we'll let you play. And I was like, 81 pounds.
Here we go.
And I was like, sign me up.
Time.
Yeah, but at 8 years old, I fell in love with every sport that I played, and I think it was mainly because every sport that I did play, we won a championship. So first year in basketball, championship. First year in football, championship. And first year in baseball, we went all the way to state, and we got 4th. But I was like, oh, if I'm on any team, we're gonna win. And that's not the case.
But so it taught you how to win at an early age, and it gave you that confidence that I am a winner and I can be a winner. And I think that's such an important skill that doesn't get talked about enough, that you have to learn how to win. So when you were growing up, and how old were you when you entered first, Brandon?
So I started riding originally at like 2 weeks old. My mom gave me to my dad up on the saddle. It was like I was throwing a fit that day. She's like, "Here, he's yours. I'm done. That's it." But I probably started riding in play days, which like the lead line events and stuff like that, probably at like 3 or 4, somewhere in there. I hardly remember yesterday, so I can't go back that far. But
so then did you kind of have the same scenario as Octavius? Did you pretty much have victory from the get-go, or was yours more hard fought? I
had a lot of wins. I did good most of the time, but I lost a lot.
Okay.
And losing a lot is what made the winning more worth it, really, and made me want to win more, because I was like, that's a great feeling when you're not losing. So
It's a little different entry. But you said you had some losses too.
Oh yeah, I've been on winning teams, losing teams, and I think, everyone should learn how to lose. That's the most important thing, because if you're just winning all the time, like once you lose, you'll be like, you'll want it more. And that's how it was for me, because I remember my first year of football, the Belton Titans went all the way to the championship, and then the next year we lost every single game, and I was like, what's happening? And then my third year, we went back and won the championship, and it was just because we wanted it. It was like all the same guys, Some players left, because they were too old or whatever the case had been, but came back stronger, came back better, and we were like we're gonna win, just little kids, and it was mainly because we had lost every single game the year before, and we were like, we're not losing anymore.
We're not doing that again.
When you're winning, you're just kind of like, oh, we just got to keep winning.
Yeah,
but you lose, and you're like, no, we got to win.
No, we got to win. There you go.
That change of mindset is a lot.
A lot, yeah. And that's how it is at Ultimate, whenever we lost to Texas State the first time we ever played them. like I said, gentleman's game. No one said nothing the entire game. But after, that's whenever they started trash talking. They were like, yeah, ranked nothing.
Bobcats would not do that. I don't know what you're talking about.
They would. They did. Matter of fact, they did. And then that put us like, all right, every single time we see these guys, we're going to put on a show. We're going to beat them and whoever's around. Like, we're not losing anymore. So
no ifs, ands, or buts
yeah,
there.
like, we're going to win. So
do you have that same kind of story from maybe early on that you remember, like, having that tragedy to triumph kind of moment?
I mean, in rodeo, it's more of a one-on-one sport. It's not really like a team going against a team.
Well, no, just remembering, like, I lost this and now I know I'm going to come back and do it.
Yeah, I've got one of those. Like my sophomore year of high school, I qualified for nationals in the bronc riding, but I broke my collarbone in the second round, getting bucked off a bronc, and had to turn out of nationals. And I was like, man, like this is the first time I got qualified. Like I worked really hard for it, and then coming back the next year, I was like, I'm going to do this. Like there's no doubt about it. I have to go back.
Where did you high school rodeo?
I went to Region 8.
Oh, in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you were from Texas or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm from South Texas. So.
Okay. Yeah, I remember my son one year, they started this big calf roping, and it was sponsored by Roy Cooper, put on by Roy Cooper, famous calf roper, and it was an invitational thing, and he didn't get invited the first year, and he deemed himself one of the ones that should have been invited. And man, talk about light a fire in someone. Like, you don't think I'm good enough?
Yeah.
Stand back and watch this, right? Let me show you. And the next year he went out and was like, there's going to be no doubt that you can't invite me. Like, I'm going to leave no room for anyone to question whether I should be invited to this event or not. And I have a picture of him wearing a Roy Cooper t-shirt the day that he found out that he got invited. And I just remember that moment of like the work finally paying off, right?
Oh, yeah.
And again, I think that's something, that y'all both brought up about winning is something that has to be learned, and it teaches you something, and you have to learn to be a winner and what that feels like, but you also really have to learn to lose.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to challenge you, a little hot topic here. So now thinking, both of you are, like Brandon, you told me you're in your master's program. Octavius, you're graduating in December, already bought a house. You have a serious girlfriend. You have a fiance. Yeah. So not that far in the future, there's potential that you could have children.
Right.
Don't do it.
Yeah, it's all fun and games. They don't tell you what.
That's not on the plan.
The girlfriends don't listen. Fiancés don't listen. So
if you're listening, we're not.
So if you had kids, or maybe even advice for other athletes who might have kids one day, maybe we'll put it that way, would you advise or would you want kids to play sports? And then how do you feel about the participation ribbon sports? Speaking of, like, you both talked about lessons that you got from winning and from losing. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about participation sports? And do you want your kids to play sports? Is that something that you'll push them to do?
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, I plan on, putting my kids in sports and stuff like that. But, I mean, today's football is getting kind of crazy, but then at the same time, it's getting more safe at the same time. So I just had this conversation with my Haley the other day. I was like, I don't know.
And Haley is?
Future fiance, future wife, future everything, But I was talking to her and I was just like, yeah, like, I don't know if I want him to play football. And she was like, why not? Like, you played football. And I was like, yeah, I was good at football. And she was like, what are you saying, that he's not going to be good? And I was like, no, like, I just don't know if he's going to like it. And I was like, and I don't want him to start it. And then
I like that y'all both already assigned that this is going to be a boy. And that the only sport is football that we're talking about.
I mean, even for my daughter, like, I want her just to be like, can I cuss on here? I'm, super kick-ass. Like, I just want her to grow up, do karate. Like, if the little boy at school is messing with you, punch him.
Didn't I see a story the other day where there was like a girl that had like, there was a female that had like the first some football accomplishment the other day?
The kicker. She was like the first collegiate or female collegiate athlete to make a field goal.
Okay, I saw something about a female football player this week. Okay.
But yeah, like, I mean, if she wants to play football, but like, get in there, like, let's see what you got.
Would you let her?
Oh yeah, I would let her. Even with baseball, because my sister was on my baseball team and she was the only girl. But I mean, she would get hit, she would get the ball thrown at her, and she was like, I don't care.
So if it was Little League and they start with participation ribbon level, are you about that life?
Yes and no. You get a little flimsy ribbon, like, good job. I hate those.
Or the trophy that you put on the shelf that just says, "Congratulations, you played."
Yeah,
you wore a uniform. I don't know if you even actually played.
Yeah, and I hate those because my brother, he was, my younger brother, he was the one that got the participation awards mostly.
Yeah, that kind of started like after we got through those.
Yeah, and I was just like, that's dumb. Like, I don't want those. I want the big trophy. But
yeah, like when I was growing up, we didn't get participation prizes.
Like
you either won or you went home sad. Like,
if you won,
you went home sad.
Like, how come they get trophies? Like, I will never forget. In basketball, my first year, we got second place, but I mean, we still made the championship. Everyone got a trophy, and they were little bitty things. But the team in first place, they had these big old trophies, and I was like, I want one of those. And my coach was like, well, we lost. And I was like, oh, okay, like, dang.
Try again next year.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I guess we got to win to get the bigger trophy.
Yeah.
But
all right, well, Brandon, maybe for your advice for your friends that might have kids.
So
should they
for
play?
his kids.
Yes.
So I would,
his son that's going to play football.
Yeah, for your son, the up-and-comer, for sure. I would definitely recommend to play sports. I mean, whether like it's football or it's rodeo or it's just running, like recreational running, not even sports. Like, it teaches you something, really. Like, it teaches you responsibility. It teaches you how to grow up, really. Like, when you're on a team, you have requirements that you have to meet. You have to learn how to wake up and put yourself to the test. And that's something that everybody really needs to learn, I think. Like, you don't learn it not being a part of something, I feel.
And put something above yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, for rodeo, it's putting your your animals above yourself. And for traditional sports, it's your team above yourself.
Like a bond. I think that's the most important thing, is getting out there and, like, creating bonds, a brotherhood,
Yeah, you
whatever.
learn how to connect with other people too. Like, it brings you closer with people that you may never have talked to before. Like,
so how do you feel about the participation level?
I don't like it.
Participation ribbon only.
Negative.
The participation awards I don't like, really. I mean, if you have a kid that goes out there on the soccer team and they have never stepped foot on the field and they never went to practice, nothing else, and then at the end of the year they're like, oh, here's a ribbon, good job. Like, you didn't, why? Like, you didn't do anything.
Well, okay. So then, what are some of the greatest lessons that you've learned from sports? You talked a little bit about what they teach you, but what are the lessons that you've learned?
Never quit. Always keep grinding. No matter what sport you play, always keep your head up. You may be knocked down, but, you're able to grow from it, learn from it, and you'll come back, 10 times harder. That's what I've learned in football and sports. And, and that kind of put me through school, as well. Like, 2 years ago, I was down bad, and I was like, all right, let me get my, let me get back on my feet. And
yeah, you and I have had lots of conversations about that, about the type of student that you used to be and what you actually want to be known as, the type of student that you actually want to be known as. Yeah. So that comeback story, right? That you see, I mean, every great sports movie, that's what it's about, right? The comeback story.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like I said, it's always about the comeback, learn how to get back up. Yeah. That's it. Learn how to get back up and keep moving.
Yeah, mine would definitely be, like, holding myself responsible. Like, there's no one else out there that's going to tell me to get up every day, go do something to get better, or looking on, like, a ride that went wrong. Like, no one else is in that picture. Like, in that video of me getting backed off, no one else is there causing that. Like, that's all me. Mm-hmm. And having to learn to accept that. And, I mean, even in everyday life, like, if you get pulled over for speeding, no one else is driving that truck. It's all you. You got to learn how to accept it. Like, I've really had to work on learning that, and that's one of my biggest points that I've learned anyway.
Yeah. So then, Brandon, did you ever have to come to that point where you had to make the choice between more traditional sports and rodeo? Did you have to choose, like, I've either got to do one or I've got to do the other, or were you able to balance both, or what did you do?
Yeah, so back in junior high, my parents just gave it straightforward to me, like, if you want to play football, you go play football. If you want rodeo, you go rodeo, but you're not doing both. Especially, like, where I'm from, we practice football in the afternoons after school. My mom was the teacher, so she was there, and we'd always leave after school, go home, and we'd practice in the arena. So it was either you go practice football or you go to the arena. You don't do both.
Okay.
And, I mean, I talked him into letting me play my 8th grade year, and that was it. And like I had a great time doing it, but I don't look back really. Like I picked rodeo and I enjoy it a lot more. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not here on the football team, obviously. So
Yeah. So what about you, Octavius? Did you ever feel like you had to pick between, you said you liked multiple sports. Did you ever come to a point where you felt like you had to pick between the sports?
Yeah, once I got to high school, it was like, okay, football. Football is my ticket out of here. You know, and I'm from a small town, Belton, Texas, right smack in the middle.
Okay, we live in Alpine. You
not a
cannot
small
say,
town.
yeah, I was going to say, we live in Alpine. You cannot say Belton
Okay,
is small.
it's grown over the years.
Well, and especially with Temple coming in on one side and
Yeah,
Austin coming in on
it's-
the other, you said you really can't say that
Central
it's
Texas.
small.
I'm just
It's all
like,
running together
Where's
nowadays.
Belton? I'm like, Austin. They're like, okay.
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a neighborhood of Austin. now,
Yeah.
really.
Suburb, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, once I got to high school, I kept telling myself, football's my ticket out of here, like nothing else.
Okay.
My backup was track. I was like, if I can get a scholarship for running, I will run all day. Like, but for the most part, football was the ticket.
I remember distinctly that my son came to me when he was playing like soccer when he was a little kid and talking about the participation trophies and ribbons and stuff. And he was like, we were trying to decide like what sports he was going to play and was he going to keep playing. And he was like, well, are there winners and losers? Like, and he was like, if I don't know if I won or lost, I'm not playing. Like there better be, I want to score. Like, do
There's
they keep
got to be
score?
a definite like line
Yeah.
between it.
And then his next question was, do they pay money? And I was like, no. And he was like, okay, I'm definitely picking rodeo then because that. But then I was talking to an older gentleman who played collegiate baseball, but was a pretty talented rodeo athlete, played D1 collegiate baseball, very talented athlete.
Yep.
And he was like, talking to me about my son, and he was like, you know, Shanna, rodeo is not a future. It's not a career.
I see
You
that.
know,
It's a
like
career.
it may pay money, but you never actually make any money at it. And we talked about like the similarities of your sport, that y'all are club sports and that you are not traditional sports. So for those people that are listening, Brandon, they may not know, how does money work for college rodeo?
So for college rodeo, we pay all our own entry fees. We get all the money that we win. The school, like our coach CJ picks a few kids on the team. They get travel checks, $150 to give you some fuel to get up there.
Which
Being
in a
in
diesel truck may
Alpine-
not even,
Yeah, being in Alpine, you understand that doesn't really get you out of
to
city
Fort
limits.
Stockton, that's about it.
yeah.
But we're responsible for all our own financials. Some of us have some scholarships that come through from alumni and
For the
programs
academic
that
side of
we've
things.
set up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, a lot of it's out of our own pocket. There's a lot of rodeo kids you'll see that come out of mommy and daddy's pockets, but
So
for
would
the
you
most part.
say, you know, you're self-funded and there's a chance to win money and that can be appealing, but would you say that it's ever actually profitable if you really factored in the cost of the animal, the cost of the vehicle, the cost of the trailer, the cost of the
So-
food and fuel and all the other things that go into it?
If you ever plan on getting rich in rodeo, you got to be rich coming into it. That's the lifelong story about ranchers too. So,
Yeah.
but college rodeo definitely not. They don't pay very good at all to win a college rodeo.
Yeah.
And I mean, for example, like last year, the Sul Ross Rodeo here, I won the long round, I won the short round, and I won the average. And I walked out with like $750, and I was
Okay.
like, oh, like it's $80 to enter it.
Pretty cheap entry fees though.
Like looking at entries
Comparable.
and the fuel I spent on that weekend, like I came ahead. But if you look back at like the fuel that I've put in to getting to the point I'm at now, and you look at the feed that I've spent on my horses, even though I don't use my horses to ride broncs, like I still have to feed my horses.
Yeah.
So
Everything you do.
like looking at all the expenses that have led up to the point of winning each rodeo, like they don't equal out.
One advantage of being a roughie over a ton event guy, you don't have to haul your animal to the rodeo or feed your animal all the way to the rodeo. So then how do financials work for you as and then do y'all call yourselves Ultimate or Ultimate Frisbee? Because I feel like there was some debate about that last year.
I mean, either or. We don't ever like pick one. We'll be like, oh yeah, I play Ultimate. And they'll be like, what's that? We'll be like, Ultimate Frisbee. And they're like, oh, okay.
So
But
it's sort of just shorthand. It's
Yeah,
not, okay. Because for some reason I thought maybe there was a movement that we needed to stop using the word Frisbee.
no, like, for the most part, we'll be like,
I want it to be PC.
Like, if we, like me, I play. I'm like, oh, what sport do you play? I'm like, oh, I play Ultimate. And they'll kind of look at me funny. I'm like, Ultimate Frisbee. And they're like, oh, okay. I mean, so it's either or. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, so then how does the money work in Ultimate?
Money wise, everything we pay for. The only
Do y'all have to pay like an entry fee to play in a tournament?
I believe so, but I've never been like responsible for that. That's like for our big timers, Mike and Javi. They're the ones that kind of, pay whatever needs to be paid. But in all honesty, I think it's probably like $80. No more than $100 at most.
So then, do y'all actually win any money?
No.
Okay.
We, wherever we go, the only thing that Sul Ross pays for is our gas, but we have to keep our receipts. If we do not keep our receipts, they're like, well, we're like, no.
It didn't really happen.
Yeah.
No receipt?
Like, there's been one time where I was just throwing them away for some reason. I got all the way back to Alpine. I was like, oh, my God. It was like $150, but I drive a little.
As a college kid, that's significant.
Yeah, that's a lot for a college kid.
I was, but I drive like a little Chevy Cruze, so it does the job.
What do you drive, Brandon?
Yeah, I've got a 3500 dually with a camper on it. So.
Okay,
so you haul your camper with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Where do y'all stay when y'all go? Do y'all get hotels?
Yeah, we get hotels, but not always the nice ones. I remember one time we went to Houston, and I was like, I'm not staying here. I was like, there's no way I'm staying here. And he was like, look, this is all we can afford. And I was like,
oh dang.
It was kind of sketchy, but for the most part, like, they're the hotels that, like, look terrible on the outside. And then when you get inside, you're like, oh, wow. Like, is that a chandelier?
Just don't leave the room and don't go anywhere by yourself.
Exactly.
It's not the kind of ones where you can see under the door.
Yeah.
The window doesn't quite close.
Yeah. But
so then when I paired y'all up, I called this episode Hammer Down because I was trying to, again, kind of think about how y'all were similar. So in rodeo for saddle bronc, I hear that a lot. Like when you're getting ready to ride, people are like, hammer down, that's kind of the phrase you hear. And then I'm not as familiar with some of the moves and the slang and the terminology for Ultimate Frisbee, but I was looking and that's actually a term in Ultimate. So can each of you explain what that means in your respective sports?
Go ahead, boss man.
And so, I don't use hammer down. I use all gas, like full throttle all the time.
Okay.
But, it's just like you got to give it everything you got right there. Like, especially in the bronc riding, everything happens really fast right there in an instant. Like, as soon as the gate opens, it starts. There's not a, build up to it. So, hammer down, you could probably think of like a gun. As soon as that hammer goes down, it's blasting off. It's blown up right there.
That's a really good way to explain it. So the opening of the chute or the gate is essentially like the click on on a gun, right?
Yeah.
That's a really great analogy. Okay.
For us, when it comes to like hammer down, it's like, look, if it's like a close game, tie game, or even the beginning of the game, like, all right, look, we're here, let's focus. Like hammer down, like know your responsibility, and stuff. It's just mainly focus, don't slip up.
Yeah.
Because if one person messes up, it messes up everybody else. And
this may not be something that you're familiar with, but isn't it an actual throw? Like, isn't it an actual throwing technique? Like hammer throw or hammer something?
So there's 3 throws. If you're really good with it, I've kind of learned it. There's a hammer. It's kind of like an overhand.
Okay.
Like a hammer. Bam. There's a flick, and then there's a backhand. So think of like whoosh, backhand.
That's what I'm familiar with.
The backhand,
just the normal, everybody throws a Frisbee.
If you ever pick up a Frisbee and the way you first, that's a backhand.
So y'all both talked about how fast your sports are and that they're kind of like wild, all out from the get-go. There's no stop, there's no letting up, there's no backing down. And that's, again, kind of the reason that I paired y'all up and thinking about it. And kind of for me, it was kind of like almost like an out of control feeling, right? And that with your sports, you sort of have to come to that terms with that out of control and kind of that let it fly. And Brandon, you talked about your riding style maybe is different than some other people's riding style when I was talking about like sitting in the saddle. So can you explain, maybe he was talking about different types of throws. Can you maybe explain the different types of riding styles that happen in bronc riding?
I'm going to try to not get as critical on this because it's...
Yeah, don't be judgmental. Don't be one of those.
No, try not to break it down as much. But I ride the front end a whole lot in my saddle. So instead of sitting back like in my seat, I'm up against my swells a lot more.
Okay.
Like the front part of my saddle, my butt's hardly ever in the seat.
Okay.
Like if you watch most of my rides, whenever my feet are coming to the back of my spur stroke, my butt's usually up in the air. Like it looks like I should be getting backed off.
Okay.
And it's just I ride a lot looser because of that.
Okay.
It's not as controlled, as classic looking as it could be.
Okay.
And I mean, it has its advantages and disadvantages. Like, you make the horse look better because you're a little out of control, but
so you ride pretty out of control. So maybe somebody who is really a harsh critic or more of a technical rider or coach of bronc riding would probably
so like our
critique
judges
and try to fix it, right?
Our judges dock a few points on it.
Okay, because
like,
of that style.
Just because they don't like it as much.
Okay.
But as long as it's going good for me, like as long as I get back in position, I mean, there's one common position that everybody gets to, and that's when your feet are in the front, like you're above the shoulders, setting your feet.
So toes turned out.
Toes turned out, like the classic look that's in every picture of bronc riding. That's correct.
That silhouette
picture.
that we all see,
right?
right?
The silhouette, like when you're back in your saddle, lifting on your rein, your feet are up where they're supposed to be. Like as long as I can get back to that position, like it's usually okay, but the rest of it usually looks out of control.
So what does that feel like to you? Does it feel out of control, or does it feel freeing, or what does it feel like for you? Like for those of us that have never actually done it, and maybe like, would you ever get on and actually do it?
Oh yeah. I would love to do it. I mean, I remember coming out here. I was like, there was a rodeo team. Shoot.
Yeah.
But then,
we have openings. Like
I was gonna sign up to be the clown. Like I remember, I was like, I want to do that. Like I want to dance.
You want to be
bull.
in the barrel?
Yeah. Like I think that would be fun. But
so tell us. So for me, if I haven't done it, maybe for Octavius who wants to do it, how would you describe how it feels like when you're in the middle of a ride, especially when it feels right? You know, when you have the rhythm and the timing and you've got the right rein and a good horse. What does that feel like?
So depending on the ride, like I've got a really weird brain. I can be in the middle of a great ride and not be in the world right now. Like I'll be thinking about random things. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, just nothing to do with the ride at all.
Like your grocery list or
like what I'm going to do next week. Like, just random things.
Okay.
And then there's times where I'm like looking at my feet every time I set them. I'm like, oh man, like my left toe looks good. Like, or there's times where I'm a little bit behind. I'm like having to work on it a little bit. I'm like, okay, lift, like get back, lift, get back.
Get there.
Coaching myself the whole way through. Mm-hmm. But most of the time when things are going right, like my brain is nowhere around the arena. Like,
okay, that's interesting.
I just have absolutely random stuff going through my head.
You're the first athlete that I've interviewed that actually disassociates themselves in their sport.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like I'll just zone out in the middle of a ride at times, but
yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't know if it would feel like a floating feeling or if it felt like a peaceful feeling or like if it felt like adrenaline rush or...
Yeah, it's a lot of a peaceful feeling whenever things are going right.
Yeah.
Like, exactly right.
Yeah. But that's super fascinating that you're able to disassociate and just really kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, cool. Yeah. So for you talked about the fast-paced nature, Octavius, of disc golf and now you got me saying it, ultimate Frisbee, and how fast everything is going. So when you're in the middle of a play and there's 9 of y'all on the field, right? So 18 total players, right?
No, 14.
Okay, sorry.
7 on 7.
Okay, 7 on 7. So there's 14 guys on the field, and is it all male? Is it or is it mixed?
It can be mixed. Like we've gone against teams that that may have a female or a girl on the team, and we're
so it can be co-ed.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got 14 people on the field, 1 disc flying around. Mm-hmm. Are you thinking more about where's the disc, or are you thinking about where I need to be? Or are you thinking about scoring? Are you thinking about defense? Like, what's usually going through your mind?
So whenever we're on offense, it's okay. Where's the disc? If the disc is on the left side or on the right side of the field, I need to be somewhere where I can get it.
Do you have an official position that you play?
Yes, it's kind of like we call it the wing. It's kind of like a outside receiver.
Okay.
So there's a wing that's there's 2 wings, on each end of the field. There's our shorts and then our handlers.
Okay.
So
we asked him about your sport. Are you going to go play his sport?
Yeah, next time y'all have tryouts, don't call me, because I've got a good capacity of running like 10 foot, and then I'm done. I used to run cross country. I don't anymore. So.
Okay.
But I mainly play the outside wing, but it's best to play every position because it's like always in a rotation.
So you're thinking mostly about where you need to be.
Where I need to be, and where is the disc if it's thrown in the air. Because if it's thrown in the air, you have to be able to read the disc. Because that wind, if it's windy, oh my lord, it's bad. It'll make you look very foolish. It'll be there, and then it'll just, it'll just be behind you, and you're like, wait. It gets hectic. So you always have to be and stay on your toes.
I bet y'all deal with that a lot out here with
Yeah,
the winds.
especially now, like, it has been windy for like the past 3 days, and we're like, let's cancel practice.
That's out of control this week. Yeah. So Brandon, that kind of reminds me of something about your sport. So thinking about when you're riding, is there anything that you try to watch on the horse to help you predict whether they're going to go forward or jump sideways, or whether they're taking long strides or going up or kicking, or like, can you watch like the head or the neck or the mane or anything to kind of give you a clue?
I mean, I'm sure you could watch their head and get an idea of it. But like, one thing that I do that I try really hard to do whenever I'm riding, just to keep myself in a position, is looking at my swells. Like, I'm looking at my saddle the whole time, trying to keep my chin tucked to where it's keeping me composed.
Yeah.
So I hardly really look at the horse.
Okay.
You just kind of, you talk to the contractor before and you get an idea, like, oh yeah, he's going to circle left, he's going to circle right, or he's going to go straight down the pin. He might step out 2 jumps and just blow straight up in the air. Like,
yeah. So again, I'm a fit lead. So when y'all are talking about this, the only thing I can compare it to is lifting, working out, right? Because I'm not competing in a sport, but I love like powerlifting and Olympic lifting moves that we do in like a CrossFit style workout. And so I'm thinking about, when you're talking about this, about doing snatch is one of my favorite lifts to do. And it's such a technical move. And so I'm trying to think about, when y'all are talking about this, like, okay, what am I thinking about while I'm doing this movement? And then when you were talking about, like, what do I look at? What am I looking at? Right. And I'm really OCD about, like, I can't have anyone in front of me. So when we line up, because in CrossFit, it's so weird that you just kind of sort of pick a spot and and some people want to face this way to the front. Some people will face this way. And it makes me batty that it's not orderly and organized and people are everywhere. So I have to be on the front row and face the wall, because I can't have people in front of me when I'm lifting, because they will distract me. And I need to have a spot on the wall that I stare at while I do the lift. And even if the coach comes over and watches me, if she gets right in front of me, I will move, because it pisses me off. Yeah. Like, no, I need to stare at this line on the wall right now, because it keeps my balance. And then, so that's really fascinating. I think that that's so cool how it applies in every area of our life. Like, are we present? Are we thinking about where we're at? And then that, being able to kind of let go of our preconceived notions, or let go of things that are holding us back, and being able to just really be there and give it. And then kind of the thing that y'all both talked about with sports, that you got to go all in. And when you hammer down, that you have to just, it's all out.
Right.
Yeah. So what does it feel like when y'all are in the middle of a game and things are going really well? Like, and there's like the flow and the team is working together and you're winning. Like, where's your brain at when that's happening?
I mean, we're like, if we're winning by a lot, we'll kind of just be like, hey, like, man, where are we going to go eat at tonight, man? Like, we're hungry. And, we'll make jokes, we'll laugh.
Start enjoying it.
Like, it's just kind of like, all right, let's relax. We're up by a couple. But I mean, if it's like a serious game, it's like, no, you need to be here. You're covering that guy. But for the most part, it's like, if we're winning, we're kind of just chilling. We're laughing. We're goofing around. And at that point, we just kind of go in like a free-for-all ultimate Frisbee. We like throw the Frisbee whenever it's like, one crazy throw. And we're like, oh, well, you got it. Good job. But I mean, it's pretty fun if we're winning.
Have you ever seen that movie Miracle about the 84 Olympic ice hockey team?
Yeah.
You've seen it?
Watched it just a few days ago, actually. Yeah.
Okay, one of the greatest sports movies ever. Yeah. Love it. I could quote so many things about that. And one of my favorites is The Legs Feed the Wolves, when he's making them do all that stuff. But there's a scene in there where they're playing and the coach is getting pissed at the players, and he hears them talking about some girls in the stands.
Right.
And afterwards, do you remember this scene?
Too. Like, they're sitting on the bench talking about them girls, and afterwards he's very irate. Like,
do you remember what he makes them do?
Right after the game, he makes them do that line thing, like going across.
So,
and for a long time, like, the janitor comes up like, hey, I need to clean the ice. And he's like, I'll do it. Just leave. Like,
yeah. So it kind of makes me curious about what you said, because so you're talking about that when y'all are winning, you're able to just like, hey, what are we talking about? What are we going to eat later? What's going on? And you were talking about that when a ride is good, that you're thinking about, you're not even in there. You're thinking about something else. But then when you're bad, you're focusing on all this stuff. So it makes me wonder, like, would we be doing better if we weren't so harped on all the bad stuff, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
if we would just start having fun from the get-go. Or was the coach from Miracle, right? Like, get your head right here. You can't be thinking about girls right now, like.
And I mean, for us, it's just kind of like, let's enjoy it, But at the same time, you know, if it gets competitive, we still have to enjoy it. You know, we still want to have fun, but let's take it a little more serious.
Yeah, I just wonder where that line is, right?
Yeah, I mean, you always got to stay on it. Like, you always got to keep your attention in there, but you can't go 100% all the time because you're just going to drain your tank so fast. Like, you're going to burn yourself out. And, I mean, there's got to be those points in there where you do have to enjoy it. Like, you got to take a minute and take up the atmosphere. Like, we're winning, we're doing great, soak it in a little bit, you know. But even when you're on top of things, like, there's always room to get better. So staying 100% focused, like in that movie when he's like making him go right back to work, like, get your head back in it, like, he's got a solid point. He's like, we might be great, but we got to get better. Like,
Yeah.
because they had that first game with Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had that first game with Russia and they lost bad. Like, after going on a winning streak too, and then go in there and they lose bad, and it's like, maybe if they weren't distracted, like, stayed into it, like, there's still someone out there bigger and better than you.
Yeah. So if you need some good sports motivation, highly recommend Miracle, 1984 Olympic team.
Oh, yeah.
Got Kurt Russell in it as the coach.
Okay.
Really good ice hockey team. I think that's a great way to kind of start wrapping things up. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. I know everybody's got a tight, crazy schedule.
Oh, no.
So we're about to head out. So this week is a crazy week at Sul Ross. It's homecoming week, and it is Halloween week. And so here at the university, it's like they've meshed everything together all into 1 week. And then college rodeo week. And so lots of stuff going on. Ironically, I was looking at my time hop on Facebook today, and I had made a homemade from scratch saddle bronc riding costume for my son for Halloween this day, like 12 years ago. And I thought that was so funny when I saw that on my time hop today, and then I knew I was interviewing you. I was cracking up laughing because he did not ever ride a saddle bronc horse ever. I could never convince him to get on. Did you ever dress up as a cowboy for Halloween?
Oh, I dressed up as a cowboy a lot. That just saved me having to, like, actually get a costume. So,
what was your favorite costume ever?
Oh, I went as a Dark Knight once. Like, we had a horse Halloween party. Like, where we dressed up the horses and everything. And I got a knight costume. And we had a big deal across, like, the cape. Oh, yeah. The drape thing. I don't know. Yeah. Over the horse. Like, had the full knight's look to it.
Dang.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It's probably the best one I did. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, just anybody listening, it's really hard to be a rodeo parent when you have to try to figure out how to make the horse work too. Yeah, how to get the horse involved in the costume too, because we got to the point where there was no trick or treating unless there was a horse involved. There was no dressing up unless the horse was involved. Makes that a little interesting. Yeah. What about you? Are you dressing up this year?
No, my Halloween days are over.
Are you dressing up this year? Any costume rodeos?
No, I'm not.
There's usually a big costume rodeo every year. No costume this year?
Not this year, no.
Okay.
I think the last time I dressed up was my freshman year here.
Me too.
My freshman year here was like the last time I actually dressed up. But the last time I went trick-or-treating, I was 17 years old. I was telling myself, like, this is my last year. At 18, I'm grown. But I think that'll start back up whenever I have kids. I'll start dressing up. And
what was your greatest costume ever?
Greatest costume ever. I was Buzz Lightyear for 4 years straight.
You really liked Buzz Lightyear.
I was committed. Like, you could tell me anything, and I was just like, I want to be Buzz Lightyear. My mom was like, you were that last year, and I was like, I want to be it again. Like, it had like the whole, like, the wings, you know, they went in and out, and I was like, I want to be Buzz Lightyear. I think from 3 years old all the way up to like 7, I was Buzz Lightyear, and then once I started playing sports, I was like, oh, I want to be like a football player. I want to be this. But Buzz Lightyear was #1 all time. I think I still have pictures of it.
Very cool. All right, last question I want to ask you is we had talked a little bit about the lessons that sports has taught you, but specifically Ultimate, how has that influenced you, or like how do you foresee that playing out in your future? Is there anything that you can take from Ultimate that you can see is going to influence you as you graduate from college and go out to be a potential husband or father or physical therapist, maybe? Yeah. What do you think Ultimate, are there any lessons that you can pull from Ultimate?
Always respect what somebody else is telling you. That's what it has taught me a lot. Like, you don't have to agree with it, but just kind of, hey, this is wrong, you're doing this wrong, or whatever the case may be. Be like, okay, you know, and
so be open to feedback. Yeah,
right? Like, what is it called whenever agree to disagree. You know, like you can be like, okay, yeah, sure, and then turn around and be like, whatever. And I think, you know, that's what it, you know, has taught me a lot, is just to agree to disagree. You know, yes, may have been wrong, may have been right, but let's move on, you know.
Okay. All right, Brandon, what about you? What do you think saddle bronc has taught you that you could actually use in life outside of rodeo?
So kind of like the old guys that you used to play basketball with. It's not really who you know, or not really what you know, but who you know. And through rodeo, you get all kinds of connections. I mean, there's so many people out there that love rodeo that can't do it, or they're not they're not good at it. So they want to support it in any way they can. And that's one thing I've learned a lot, is it's not what you know, but who you know. And in life, I mean, it helps a lot. Like, the ranch I'm living on right now, like, it's just a friend's place that, I mean, I'm not ever going to be able to afford that property, but I know someone that can, and they let me stay there, and it's great. Like,
awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Under the Brim podcast today.
Yes,
we are excited to have you here. Thank you so much for your time, guys.
it's been great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Brandon Lansford and Octavius Delgado, Sul Ross athletes.